Well, a very, very happy Tuesday and welcome to another episode of the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today's date is September 23rd of 2025. And I got to tell you, if you are a Cincinnati sports fan, this past weekend has been a whirlwind of emotion. On one hand, we have a disastrous Cincinnati Bengals team that got humiliated on Sunday as they lost to the Minnesota Vikings. On the other hand, we have a baseball team that currently holds the third and final spot in the National League Wildcard. Depending how this week goes, we can very well find ourselves watching some October baseball in hopes in support of the Cincinnati Reds. On today's episode, we will be talking and recapping the weekend sports with the Cincinnati Reds and the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll have some sports conversations alongside those categories, but we will be kicking things off with WWE's WrestlePalooza, which took place back on Saturday. Before we get to any of those sports, I want to just give you a rundown of what's happening on our channel. Maybe I just bit off a little bit more I can chew, but I'm going to tackle it anyways. I am just pushing to get content published 24/7 around the clock. I am not behind on any content. I currently have tonight's baseball game in progress as we speak, so I'm looking forward to having that in full motion. But as far as the descriptions go and in the completion of these videos, that is where I lack the most. I'm trying to get the content out there. It's been played. It's been published. Just needs to be uploaded to YouTube. But so I appreciate everyone's patience, but we have a busy schedule ahead of us. This week on wrestling, we just got past NXT's spring break-in, which had all NXT championships on the line. That is the NXT Championship, the NXT North American Championship, the NXT Cruiserweight Championship, the NXT Tag Team Championship, and the NXT Women's Championship. I encourage you guys to go back and watch that video before NXT tomorrow night, as it will inform you as well who retained and who won new titles. This week we continue. We actually begin round 2 of our King and Queen of the Ring tournament. As there are 4 matches, 2 males and 2 females on Raw, as you saw last night, and on SmackDown coming up this Friday. That will all conclude at the King and Queen of the Ring tournament, or pay-per-view, PLE, whatever you want to consider it, in just a few weeks, where the winners will get a championship match of their brand. We are continuing the WWE draft, as I encourage you to check out the descriptions below, not only to finish telling the story or the concept of that program for that particular night, but the WWE draft has been updated. Once the WWE draft has been finished, I will post that in the community chats. Over to our baseball schedule tonight, we have the Pirates taking on the Reds at 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we wind down the final week of Major League Baseball, as we find out the final set of teams who could be making a playoff appearance beginning next week. This Friday, we will have the Minnesota Twins taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. And instead of our original schedule that you may have seen in our updated weekly video package for baseball, Instead of having our Saturday evening's game between the Reds and Brewers, we have a doubleheader on Sunday, as it will come down to the outcome of these games that will determine who wins the American League West, as well as who collects a wild card position. At 3:07, we will have the Houston Astros take on the Los Angeles Angels. And at 3:10, the Los Angeles Dodgers will take on the Seattle Mariners. I apologize for the inconvenience and appreciate everyone's patience as we wind down the 2025 regular season. Beginning September 30th, which is a Tuesday, we are expected to begin our wild card matchup. The intended goal is to have ourselves every single postseason game available for you. That does become a lot early on in the postseason, as there are days where there's 4 teams being played at the same time. I know next week will be a challenge, and I will do my best to give you as much content as possible, as I do intend and plan on giving you each and every game in each and every series. So please be patient, and I assure to you that things will prevail.
Bluetooth disconnected.
On top of that, over in our football, we begin our international series, which will probably last, I think, about 4 weeks down the road. Beginning off on Thursday Night Football here this Thursday, the Seattle Seahawks will take on the Arizona Cardinals. In our early 9:30 ball game, the Minnesota Vikings will take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. In a primetime game, the Ravens and Chiefs will do battle at GEHA Field and at Arrowhead Stadium at 4:25, followed by the Sunday night game between the Packers and the Cowboys.
Bluetooth disconnected.
And then we will have at 8:15 one of the 2 games played on Monday, as the Bengals will host or take on the Broncos on the road. So there's a lot of action for people to get involved with when it comes down to sports, baseball, wrestling, and football. I encourage you guys to check out our YouTube channel at TNC Sports Talk for all the information that you need. Have those notifications on and share with a friend if you guys are excited of what you see.
Bluetooth.
Alrighty, let's get down to our conversations on today's episode. I want to focus in our wrestling conversation here today in the category of WWE's recent PLE over the weekend WrestlePalooza. This was a huge transition for sports entertainment, for the World Wrestling Entertainment industry, for TKO, for ESPN, and for anyone who enjoys sports. As this focused the early attention
Bluetooth connected
of the commitment made between ESPN and the WWE. Now remember, this was supposed to really kick off at the beginning of the year of 2026. But instead, we saw this 4 months early, and they hyped it up to be this spectacular event that anything's going to happen, that we're going to see things that we have never seen before. And
Bluetooth disconnected. Bluetooth connected.
After pondering over the program, personally myself, I didn't necessarily see too much wrong with it. I think maybe for me, I've been adapted to what the WWE has brought to the table, and I've just, assumed and accepted the fact that when they hype up something big, we're just let down. But, we saw Brock Lesnar and John Cena on a match card. We saw AJ return after 10 years of being outside the wrestling industry. We've seen Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre spark their feud. And we've seen a new champion crowned this past Saturday. So, whether or not you guys enjoyed this event or not, I think that for what it was given, I think it was well entertained. One of the issues that I will address here that's not just
Bluetooth
related to this
disconnected.
PLE, but related
Bluetooth
to
connected.
every PLE, is that WWE has to pick and choose their poison. They have a lot of wrestling going on, which is great for business, not just for the WWE, not just for NXT and Raw and SmackDown, but TNA, AAA also. There's a little bit of everything for everyone. And if you're a wrestling fan, you have to be able to keep an open mind when a new wrestling promotion
Bluetooth
surfaces
disconnected.
water.
Bluetooth connected.
NWA is kind of getting the attention as well here in recent months. They're trying to make a push. You got AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan. There's so much wrestling out there that even myself, that I will just be prone and more focused on what I'm comfortable with. Not saying that I'm against AEW, not saying that I'm against Ring of Honor. I'm just more prone to watching WWE. Their formula, their format that they
Bluetooth
put on
disconnected.
week in and week out is what I'm used to and I'm
Bluetooth
comfortable with.
connected.
So, like I said, nothing against any other company, but this is my cup of tea. And so when I watched this show, and I actually got a chance to sit down and watch this, is something I haven't done in a little while. But what convinced me is watching, first of all, let me just address this for those who are interested in learning, well, how does this all work? I have the Hulu and the Hulu TV bundle. So I pay for Hulu TV, which gives me plenty, I think 95 plus channels. I don't know the number.
Bluetooth disconnected.
But I got ESPN,
Bluetooth
I got
connected.
Disney, I got Cartoon Network, I got all your local channels, which is what I bought it Intel for. Not spending $200 on a cable connection for half the channels, or, in a contract wise. On top of that, I get whatever Hulu options out to offer. Plus, I get Disney Plus, and now I get ESPN, which supports ESPN Unlimited, which is the wrestling, which WWE is on right now. So I think it's great because instead of I'm putting in
Bluetooth
over
disconnected.
$100 for all of
Bluetooth
what
connected.
I'm paying for anyways. Instead of having to pay $100, an extra $30 for ESPN, I'm capable of using it. So it's not. I'm going to spend a little bit less. And no disrespect, but I don't know what my future is for Peacock because WWE is moving astray towards that. But
Bluetooth disconnected. Bluetooth connected.
I guess time will only tell. So, and I figure, there's going to be some issues. You can't be perfect at this. If you're expecting thousands and thousands of people to watch, to tune into this product on ESPN or Netflix or whatever it at, you have to expect, these servers, these connections to kind of go sour at times. But a couple of highlights that I wanted to point out from WrestlePalooza over this weekend. The first thing is going to be the Brock Lesnar and John Cena match.
Bluetooth disconnected.
I have to
Bluetooth
agree
connected.
with a lot of people how they were disappointed in the outcome of this match. It felt like this was a squash match. And I felt like John Cena could have done better without this match, and it wouldn't make a difference. We know he's about to retire. We understand that he has other obligations in his work schedule other than WWE, and he's been, he's really been making emphasis to how many days he has left. We know that he has 5 more days after this.
Bluetooth disconnected.
Okay. October 11th
Bluetooth
at Crown
connected.
Jewel, November 10th on Raw, November 17th on Raw, November 29th at Survivor Series, and December 13th at Saturday Night Main Event. So we know the days. They've been reminding us from day one how many days John Cena has left. And if he needs to step away for whatever reason, you don't need to write him off of script. He's not going to show up until his dates. And that's okay. If this was
Bluetooth connected.
Heading into this match, a couple of things took place. One, this is what points out. One, Brock Lesnar has the record over John Cena. I think what we saw, it was 2-4. John Cena only has 99 PLE victories. And I think you're maybe saving that one to the very end as possible. Right. And that's it. So what did we see on Saturday between Brock Lesnar and John Cena squash match? We've seen Brock Lesnar return. We see him do what he wants, when he wants, what he wants. It reminded me of the feud that happened a decade ago that Brock Lesnar has destroyed John Cena, Suplex City, F5 is all to nowhere. It felt like we started off slow. We built up momentum right away. John Cena hits 3 F5s or FUs, whatever, attitude adjustments.
Bluetooth disconnected.
And Brock Lesnar kicks out after the third one. He was going for the 5-knuckle shuffle when then Brock Lesnar gets up after 3 F5s but attitude adjustments and then hits John Cena with 3 F5s, pins him. That was it. Brock then circles the ring, comes back in, F5s the referee, and F5s John Cena again, and that's it. Short, simple, sweet. I was not impressed of the match. I completely understand. If you're not going to be the main event, you might as well be the first in line. I think Brock Lesnar was the one, or Paul Heyman was the one who said this years ago. If you're not going to main event, set the tone. But what tone did they really set for the PLE? In my opinion, I think that the Usos taking on Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed was a better match than the Brock Lesnar match. And I think that this honestly, this is what, in my opinion, it did. This was the purpose for it. You had WrestlePalooza. You had ESPN. I think you needed 2-star names to take place, and this is where it happened at, right? This is what sold seats. Other than AJ Lee, other than CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, other than Cody Rhodes, Brock Lesnar and John Cena was to get people into WrestlePalooza. John Cena refrains from winning 100 PLEs right now, which makes you think strategically if he's going to win 100 PLEs. I think that's the next, achievement on his agenda. But now you have Crown Jewel and Survivor Series. I don't know if I count Saturday Night Main Event as a PLE. That's not even going to be in Boston, by the way. That's another conversation for another piece. So then if he's part of War Games during Survivor Series and he picks up a victory, is that a PLE win? So, I think what you did was risk the fact that John Cena has a limited amount of appearances left. You put him in with the beast, which I know, Brock does take care of people quite well, but you just risked him being hurt. And for what? There was no purpose out of this. It would have been something. I think the storyline going into this match was John Cena overcoming one of his toughest opponents in his entire career. I think John Cena's even admitted to Brock Lesnar being one of his physically tough opponents in his career.
Bluetooth disconnected.
Bluetooth connected. I feel like that was a dud. I feel like that was just a waste of time. And I guess we just got to move on. I want to congratulate Stephanie Valkyrie for winning and defeating Io Sky, becoming the new women's world champion. That was a very well entertaining match, probably the best match on the card all night long. You knew what AJ Lee, CM Punk, Becky Lynch, and Seth Rollins was capable of doing in the ring. I honestly felt like that went a little bit longer than expected, but they were able to tell everything they wanted to tell. The focus point was AJ Lee returning back into ring action after several years of being gone. And I think that this is a well-needed win for AJ Lee, CM Punk. I felt like it was only right that they won. Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins is that it's kind of like that Triple H and Stephanie McMahon couple in the WWE, where it doesn't really phase them win or lose, but the odds are against their opponents every single time.
Bluetooth connected.
They're already made. They're already set. And you think that CM Punk is already made set. AJ Lee should be the same way too, but they needed this win a little bit more. A little, bittersweet scenario out of it all. We see that although it feels like the Usos won the battle, or the Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed won the battle, we still see the controversy and the issues, the concerns that we see between the Usos and LA Knight. And for the last few weeks, to me, it seems that we may see a heel turn between either Jey Uso or LA Knight. Both of them have valid reasons if they wanted to turn heel to do so. LA Knight's been with this company and has been this star and gotten the fan base for years, at least the last 2 years. And he has nothing to show for it. And so, if LA Knight wanted to turn heel tomorrow, why would you blame such a man? Look at what I've done for you, and this is the pay that I've gotten, the thanks that I've get. Jey Uso, I won this title. I built the mountain, I'm against the company. You took it from me. You brought me back down. I'm never getting over this Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed feud. Where do I go from here? I also want to give a shout out and congratulations. The Undertaker made an appearance, or Mark Calloway. It is still very rare, and I'm still getting very used to seeing the Undertaker come out and be a little bit more of a human being.
Disconnected. Bluetooth
more so than not, but he, it was just I feel back, lightweight, see this type of guy that you just didn't see for the past 30 years inside the ring, comes out and he announces and shares with Stephanie McMahon, who's at ringside, that she will be the first induction into the 2026 Hall of Fame. And I think she deserves that and more. She's done a lot. She was scrutinized for the company. She was overlooked. A lot of people thought she was just a piece of meat in that case. And she's really had to grind and tough. And, maybe during that time, you definitely disliked her or, thought a certain way of her. But now after being able to look at things from a different point of view, and when it's all said and done, she's helped lead a huge impact into the future of this industry, not just inside her own personal feuds and vendettas during her tenure, but what she's been able to do outside the ring and build the women's revolution and provide opportunities for many. So, congratulations. I think it's incredible, and I can't wait to see who else is going to be a part of her
Bluetooth
class.
disconnected.
Um,
Bluetooth connected.
so I think that was a really big announcement. Otherwise, look, it's a PLE. You have 6 matches. Well, not even say 1, 2, 3, 5 matches on the card. And, your next PLE is coming up in about 3 weeks at Crown Jewel. And so where do we go from here, heading into Survivor Series, heading into the end of the year, beginning our new year run? One of the, I think, topics that we could save for a later date is the fact
Bluetooth
that
disconnected. Bluetooth connected.
There's a lot of talent on that roster, and I think that the WWE could do better in showcasing that talent. So, I want to see it pretty full. All right. I want to transition, and I'm just going to get down to the negatives here. Let's talk some Bengals football. It was humiliating. It was embarrassing as a fan to watch this game. As much as I wanted to turn it off after halftime, I just try to find a way to watch it out. And if anything could have went wrong, it went wrong for the Bengals, and it showed. They got manhandled by the Vikings on Sunday, 48-10. Jake Browning. This is interesting because it was 2 backup quarterbacks majority of the game. Jake Browning goes 19 for 27, 140 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions for 3 sacks.
Bluetooth disconnected.
Not even JJ McCarthy. It was Kirk Cousins, the backup quarterback. He threw 14 for 20, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he got sacked 3 times. These are backup quarterbacks that played similar football. Cousins had just a little bit better game than Browning, but definitely the tail of the tape did not show. This was, if everything got, the Vikings was capable of taking advantage on everything that the Bengals did wrong, and it showed in the score. 38 points. And I would argue, look, it could happen to any team. Every team goes through this once in a season, sure, and I hope this is the only time this happens to the Bengals this year. But it's hard to say because they got an upcoming schedule that does not look promising, and then the back end of this doesn't look promising after Thanksgiving. The bigger question I had, I was just contemplating over myself. How much of a difference would this have made if Joe Burrow was your quarterback? Yes, this showed that, hey, Joe Burrow really needed to be there. And I get that. I get it. Joe Burrow is, he's an asset to this team, to this offense. But you still got to remember that the Vikings put up 48 points. 14 of those points came from interceptions that came back for a touchdown. 14 of those points, just imagine, that would have brought it down to 34. 34-10. I still think the Bengals, with a Joe Burrow, would not be able to match the 2 touchdown, interceptions that came back for points for the Bengals. Some positive things with this. It gives the Bengals their first loss. It gives them something to go back and try to improve on. They got a lot of work to do, give them credit. And you're still 2-1 and you're still first in the division, right? This is the importance of having those 2 wins to begin the season. But reality is that we cannot have a repeat performance. Sure, we have a primetime game this Monday against the Broncos. They're 0-3. I would figure that the Bengals should be able to go in and beat this team, move them to 0-4. But it is difficult to stand behind a team that just got off of a poor performance as they did.
Bluetooth disconnect. Bluetooth
So,
connected.
I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. One of the questions that I've seen lurk social media here, and I've seen guys on sports talks talk about this. If the Bengals would the Bengals consider bringing in an actual backup quarterback that could start to help this team for the next 10 weeks? If you think about this, Jake Browning is just a backup quarterback. And I'm not making excuses because that's not what I want to do here. But let me enlighten you. He played 2 years ago. And yes, he had an okay run, but he's nothing special. He hasn't played since then. And I think it doesn't matter whether you play for the practice squad or whether you play, whether you're a backup on any given talent. Until you don't get the real idea until you're out there actually on the field in a professional game to really get an idea of what you're capable of doing. So it's been 2 years since Jake Browning's been on a field during the game. It's been 2 years. He, as a backup quarterback, and sure, maybe he had some adrenaline rushing off last week's home game. That's what kept him inside the victory. But, let's face it. Either this is how it's going to be. And if that's how if this is how it's going to be, we need to consider bringing in a guy like maybe Jameis Winston, for that matter. Just that already, hey, he's a starter. He already knows what he's doing. He's been there, done that. He's not Joe Burrow, but he can hold down the fort a little bit because Jake Browning is either going to struggle or he's going to, brush this one off, come back and play and give you a solid performance. I'm going to be honest with you. 19 for 27 is not a terrible performance. They couldn't establish the run game. Okay. That, what if things been different if we could have got Chase Brown running? All right. He had 10 rushing yards or 10 carries for 3 yards. 3 yards. Crazy. So, or do we hope that Jake Browning
disconnected,
comes in over the next 2-3 weeks and just improves a little bit? The struggle I see with it is our schedule. Yeah, maybe you could outlast the Broncos, but those Lions just cost the Ravens a victory. And we have the Packers afterwards. And afterwards, if we could survive those 2 teams, we have the Steelers. So by any means necessary, we got to figure our shit out now and make a decision. This only builds momentum, I'm going to say, for the Vikings. They're heading into 2 international games coming up this weekend against the Steelers. So, I mean, they're and the only good news is that those are considered road games on their schedule anyways. So they're just playing it at neutral locations. All right, let's look at that division and see how everyone else did. The Packers and Browns, very close game. Browns came back from being down 10 with 9 minutes left and to give up a victory. And Browns win, put the first victory on the year,
Bluetooth disconnected.
13-10. You know, if you
Bluetooth
think about
connected.
this is the first time they should have won the week 1 game. They missed that field goal. They surely should be 2-1, but now they're 1-2. They have a really dangerous defense to go up against. The Steelers beat the Jets 21-14. Aaron Rodgers passes Brett Favre on the NFL's career's touchdown pass list. He went 16-23 with 139 yards with 2 touchdowns and 1 interception during his victory against New England.
Bluetooth disconnected. Bluetooth
and this
connected.
was against the Patriots. So 21-14 against the Patriots. And the Ravens lost to the Lions 38-30. And it came down to the final showdown. So as we look at right now, the Bengals still have the first place win. They're 2-1, followed by a 2-1 Ravens team. Not even 2-1. They lost against the they're 1-2. So Steelers are 2-1. And the I want to say the Bengals or the Ravens.
Bluetooth
I'm just gonna look at
disconnected.
that real quick.
Bluetooth connected.
The Bengals and the Steelers are 2-1. The Ravens and the Browns are 1-2. The Browns are 0-2 against their division, and the Steelers have yet to play a division game. Interesting notes to take away from our division's games over this past weekend. The Packers now have won 300 straight games, Packers have now. So the Packers, up until Sunday, the Packers have won 300 straight games, went up by 10 points within the
Bluetooth
final
disconnected.
4 minutes of
Bluetooth
that game.
connected.
And the Browns lost 145 straight games by trailing by 10 points within the final 4 minutes of the game. To put it back into perspective, for the Browns, that's week 3 of 2002. And for the Packers, that is November of 1967 versus the Baltimore Colts. And to go deeper into that, that was where head coaches out there on the field, Vince Lombardi and Don Shula. Wow. You know, I put together this little, I want to do some takeaways here
Bluetooth
real quick
disconnect.
in the NFL
Bluetooth
as we
connected.
wrapped up week 3. In our division in the AFC North, I'm just going to jump down the list. The Ravens, they couldn't stop the run game, or the defense couldn't stop the Lions whatsoever, and Derrick Henry couldn't hold on to the ball. And I think that's going to be, we play it game by game. They were at home. I think it was a poor performance by, I only watched maybe the first, half, and I saw just both of them get off to aggressive starts. But what I've really seen from these
Bluetooth
Lions
disconnected.
these last 2
Bluetooth
weeks,
connected.
they really have gotten off to an aggressive start. And they're willing to go for it and take chances, which I still think alarms a lot of their opponents in this matter. So I think that, the Ravens, they're 1-2. They can still consider to be a force to be reckoned with in the league. And obviously their schedule and their record does not show for it, and they're seeing some cracks in the hole. Like, it's
Bluetooth
nasty. I was
disconnect.
looking at the
Bluetooth
Ravens,
connected.
starting receivers and Zay Flowers, DeAndre Hopkins, and I'm like, I don't even want to step foot with them. It makes me want to throw up. Especially when it comes down to when we have to face them. But man, the Ravens just struggled last night against the Lions at home in front of the home crowd. So something I think to take a note for. The Bengals, look, like I mentioned, if this goes with, if this last week's performance
Bluetooth disconnected.
is what the offense
Bluetooth
has to work
connected.
with for the next 3 months, and we don't make any changes about it, I don't know what that right decision is. I don't know to stay with Jake Browning and give him another week or two. I can see that happening. But if he doesn't perform against the Broncos this Monday, I think you really do have to consider bringing in a quarterback that's not to take away from Jake Browning, but to bring in someone that can help this team a little bit more than what he provides. I mean, we may not even pick up another win on the season. The Browns, man, they may have one of the best defense in the NFL. Uh, they've
Bluetooth
held
disconnected.
Cincinnati,
Bluetooth
Baltimore, and Green Bay to under 250 yards offensively, which is incredible. And then the Steelers, defense came alive last on Sunday, forcing 5 turnovers. I think with the Steelers right now, from what I've seen, Aaron Rodgers needs help with the run game a little bit. I think that's how they're going to keep him alive, keep him going, keep him healthy. With the Steelers defense, but this defense is starting to come back to be a very provident team to be scared about.
Bluetooth disconnected.
I also wanted to provide you my top 10 teams from week 3 as we head into. So now coming in at number 10 that I've selected is the Chiefs. Second half appearance, Patrick Mahomes on a Sunday night game against the Giants. He went 10 for 14, 124 yards. Look, yeah, they've struggled offensively, and that's given credit. And I don't want to sugarcoat it, but they're still a very strong defensive team. And defense can help win ball games. And what we saw is that, Patrick Mahomes is still a great quarterback.
Bluetooth
I think he is
disconnected.
surrounded with decent
Bluetooth
talent
connected.
that when he needs to, he can prevail, click in and just turn off that switch. And I wouldn't rule them out quite yet. Like I said, they picked up their first victory on Sunday. If they went to 0-3 and they lost to the Giants, I would have had different arguments. But they held their own. They won that game. And I don't see there's much of a worry right now heading into week 4. Coming in at number 9, the Lions, as they bullied the Ravens on their home field, sacked Lamar
Bluetooth
Jackson
disconnected.
7 times.
Disconnected.
And man, you got to tip your hat to David Montgomery, averaging 12 and a half yards per carry. Dan Campbell, arguably right now one of the smartest and best coaches of the NFL. Coming in at number 8, in my opinion, the 1-2 Cleveland Browns, as I mentioned earlier, arguably one of the best defense in the NFL. If that rookie kicker could have made that field goal, would we have saw a different outcome? At number 7, the San Francisco 49ers. They are 3-0, undefeated. The only
Bluetooth
undefeated team
disconnected.
in the AFC, in the
Disconnected.
NFC West. All probably thanks to the return of Robert Salah. Might be the best thing they've ever had. Christian McCaffrey still looks like the MVP on this team as he touched the ball 27 times for a total of 140 yards. Number 6, Pittsburgh Steelers. Dangerous team defensively. Like you said, helping. If you can help get that run game going with Aaron Rodgers and the offense, this team is a force to be reckoned with. Coming in at number 5, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, never making a win
Bluetooth
look easy,
disconnected.
but promising. Wide
Bluetooth
receiver
connected.
Ibuka with 6 catches for 85 yards. Yeah, I think they're going to be that quiet team in the NFC South. They're just going to kind of do their business, not think that they're above anyone. They're just going to leave it out on the field. All right, coming in at number 4, we got the Philadelphia Eagles. Man, what a game it was. But what's great about the Eagles game against the Rams back on Sunday is how you complete a game, right? I was listening to this the other day,
Bluetooth disconnect.
and they were explaining to this. Well, if the Eagles would have won, it would have, the conversation nationally would have been, or the Eagles would have lost. The conversation nationally would have been how the Eagles made this error. They're maybe not the greatest team in the NFL anymore. and let's question them. But if they won, which they did, now they're talking about they're unbeatable, unstoppable, and they're even questioning the Rams and Sean McVay. The Eagles
Bluetooth
prove to
disconnected.
you
Bluetooth connected.
that all aspects of football are in order to be acceptable, in order to win. On Sunday, they won thanks to their special teams. They blocked 2 field goals within the last 9 minutes of the game to help their team win. So it wasn't nothing special offensively. It wasn't nothing special defensively. Thanks to their special teams to stop 2 field goals when it meant the most, kept them in the ball game and picked them up to victory. Coming in at number 3, the Minnesota Vikings. Isaiah Rodgers' historical performance back on Sunday. It's the first player to return a fumble for a touchdown while adding a pick 6 and 2 forced fumbles in a single game. Like I said, the momentum you have, you don't have J.J. McCarthy, but I think you have the next best thing. Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has been there. He's done that. He's been with the winning team. He started. He knows what it's about. So you feel like your hands are in good place. Now knowing based off of the performance that you saw from the entire squad last Sunday, heading into these 2 international games, I'm not saying that you have to take both of them, but I think you're in confident hands. And if you're a Vikings fan, you feel good about yourself. That either quarterback, whether it's JJ or whether it's Kurt, that you could roll with. Coming in at number 2 for me, Indianapolis Colts. I think that they're the black sheep of the AFC. I think people are going to turn past them. I had them. That's the reason why I had them up here in this high on this list here in my top 10. Jonathan India, another 100+ yards with 3 touchdowns. Daniel Jones, 70%
Bluetooth
completion,
disconnected.
2 of 4 sacks came from Tyquan Lewis. Is the Colts not a serious team to be looked at? Listen, all beginning of this year, I've seen nothing but the conversation pieces. I've seen it's the Chiefs, it's the Eagles, it's the Ravens, it's the Bills. It's now Justin Herbert and the Chargers. Where's the Colts? What else do they have to do other than to be 3-0 here in the division that this division ultimately sucks in? What else do we have to do
Bluetooth
for them to
disconnected.
take it seriously?
Bluetooth connected.
And at number 1, it has to be those Chargers. Justin Herbert, it's just a magical thing. He was down by, the Raiders are going to win. He was down by so many points, goes 12 for 15, 123 yards. Keenan Allen, 7 passes, 65 touches. First in 19 years to start 3-0 with a win against all teams from their division. Look, this Justin Herbert, this, Jim Harbaugh
Bluetooth
situation,
Bluetooth connected.
it's working. You have a thirsty, you have an eager quarterback that wants to get out there and win and play and showcase his talent and be considered among some of the greats like Allen, like Mahomes, like Burrow. Right now, he's fitting in very nicely. He didn't just beat the Chiefs. They beat the Raiders and they beat the Broncos in the first 3 weeks. They have a 3-game comfortable lead that no matter what happens for the rest of the year, they finish off at least 500 in their division.
Bluetooth
I think
disconnected.
that
Bluetooth
it will be
connected.
challenging for the Chiefs to make up, because they don't just have to make up 2 games to catch up to the Chargers. They got to win 3, and they've already lost 1 division game, so they're gonna have to win the rest or end up winning at least 4 of the next 5. So that is my take on the NFL for week number 3. I think it's going to be exciting as we head into week 4, and we'll give you our take. what moves on there. All right. I want to go ahead and transition over to our Major League Baseball. Some positive moves coming out here. It's all coming down to this final 6 games of the year, and it starts tonight. I got my notes all over the place, but let's look at where we stand at today among Major League Baseball. September 23rd, 2025. The AL playoff picture. If the playoffs would start today, the Blue Jays will hold the number 1 seed in the American League, followed by the Mariners and the Tigers. The Yankees, Red Sox, and Guardians have the 1, 2, 3 wild card position. With right now, honestly, it's the Astros who are tied with the Guardians on the outside looking in due to their tiebreaker. The Rangers, 5 games out. I think that they're kind of knocked out of it here, but I still have them kind of on the outside looking in. 1 game's done. Toronto, here's what's interesting. The Blue Jays have clinched a playoff spot. No team has clinched a division just yet, and no team has officially clinched a wild card spot yet. The Yankees are 4.5 games above in the wild card, with the Red Sox just 1 game up. So 6 games, 2 series, anything could happen. I'll explain to you why in the American League. The AL East, the Blue Jays, the Yankees are 2 games back, and the Red Sox are 5 games back. The Detroit Tigers, they've been on this slump here recently. They're just 1 game back of the Guardians, and Houston are 3 games back against the Mariners. So, what does that playoff picture look for? What's at stake in the American League? Okay, let's get down to it. For the East, Toronto has 3 games against the Red Sox. So we go back to being 5 games out of the division, 1 game ahead of the Guardians and Astros in the wild card. I'm sure a series win for Toronto. They want to win that division. I can almost certainly guarantee that Toronto and New York's coming out in the playoffs. Where at, I don't know. It depends how this turnaround goes. But the Blue Jays host the Red Sox for 3. Then they're in Tampa, or they're facing the Rays for 3 over the weekend. They're looking for a division and a top of the seed. That's what's at stake here. Toronto does possess the tiebreaker over the Yankees. On the other hand, the Yankees have 3 games against the White Sox and 3 games with the Orioles. Both teams out of it. They're looking for the same exception than the Blue Jays. The Red Sox have 3 against Toronto, 3 home to the Tigers, and they're just looking for a postseason seed. In American League Central, the Tigers and the Guardians face off tonight in a 3-game series. Detroit will go to Boston as the Cleveland will host the Rangers. Kansas City on the outside looking for a postseason run. I don't see that even possible. I don't even have them on that list. But they're 3 at Anaheim and 3 against the Athletics. Seattle, you have the Mariners in the West, 3 versus the Rockies, 3 versus the Dodgers. They're looking for the top of. They could potentially battle for the top of the league, or a playoff win or a title win, nonetheless. Houston's looking for that same thing as well. So I was looking at kind of like games we'll be interested in, and it starts off tonight. I tell you, 6:40 tonight, Detroit, Cleveland, 6 at Progressive Field. This is going to really battle, and you may see Cleveland on the other end of this series have that lead in the Central, and I'm just going to be flabbergasted of where the hell do they come from if they did. You got Boston and Toronto. Boston's trying to stay alive in that wild card hunt, as Yankees don't really have much to worry about other than if they tank this last week. Colorado's in Seattle. Colorado is in Seattle. Houston is taking on the Athletics on the road. And it's all down by a series. So we may not really see conclusions to any of this into the very last 3 games, if not Saturday or Sunday of this week. It's going to make it interesting because, there is that we have 2 sides of the table here in conversation.
Disconnected.
One, teams will like to kind of rest their starters and get them ready for postseason baseball. If you're playing next Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, or if you're playing all the way through next weekend because you have the first round bye, you want to give yourself that opportunity to get, rearrange that lineup or that roster to fit your favorable needs. But with everything still up for grabs among these 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams, you really still go into this week as if it's playoff games moving forward.
Bluetooth connected.
And so we will have to look into, keep that in mind as we get ready for these final few days of the season. Let's jump over to the National League. This is where we talk about the Reds, but I'm going to cover the entire league. So, the Phillies and Brewers hold division wins already in their division. Brewers, if the playoffs win today, they have the first round bye along with the Phillies. Then the Dodgers. The Cubs also clinched a spot. The Padres, as of yesterday, they beat Milwaukee 5-4 in extra innings to clinch as well. And thanks to a round of applause to a 4-game sweep from the Reds over the Cubs, we see the Reds currently hold and tied with the Mets in the final wild card, and they hold the tiebreaker. Now, Arizona, still a game back. St. Louis, San Francisco, 3.5 games back.
Bluetooth connected.
The only thing that we're kind of paying attention to for division is that the Padres are 2 games back of the Dodgers. So here's what's at stake around the league. The Phillies are looking for the first round bye, as well as Milwaukee. The Mets, they have 3 at the Cubs, 3 at Miami. They're looking for a playoff berth. They need to have a better record than the Reds this week.
Disconnected. Bluetooth connected.
And if they tie or they don't, they're not in. Miami, they have very slim chances. Three against Philadelphia, 3 against the Mets. Chicago, looking just for seeding placements. The Reds, they got 3 against the Pirates, 3 against Milwaukee. That starts tonight. Their faith, the final spot of this wild card will lie into what they do. So if they play 4-2 baseball, as long as they play the same or equal amount of baseball than with the Mets, they will win. And the only other controversy here is how Arizona plays. So if Arizona could play lights out baseball and play better than the Reds and the Mets combined, they have to play for 2 games because they would have to be better. So they have to win 2 more than what the Mets and Reds put together. So, and then the Dodgers and Padres are looking for divisional placement here. So look, listen,
Bluetooth
like I said, beginning of September, the Reds found, let me paint you back that picture. Okay. I'm going to use the combination of Moneyball. I'm going to use the combination of the longest yard here. And the draft. What about draft day, right? Draft day. So The Reds began September just 6 games out of the wild card. You make a little prayer and you sprinkle a little fairy dust on top of the final games of the season, and they're right here holding the final spot. Now, their future lies within the faith of what they do. They have the opportunity to go to the postseason and for the first time since 2020 play October baseball, take on right now probably the Dodgers in a 3-game series. Right? They have the opportunity to build fan base back up. And when we're kind of down in the dumps and upset and worried about how the next 4 months of football is going to turn around, we have the opportunity in hopes to continue their faith just a little bit longer.
Bluetooth disconnected.
But it all depends how
Bluetooth
they
connected.
come across and how they perform this next week. Like I said, they just got to play similar to better baseball than the Mets for 1 week. For 1 week. And if you think about it, they just got the Pirates in the 3-game series. We know they're out of the postseason. We have to go to Milwaukee, and I think that's going to be a challenge. But there shouldn't be no reason, right? You're taking on the Pirates in a 3-game series. Why can't you win 2 of the 3? And who says you can't win 2 of the 3 against Milwaukee? What would help also, as we will be paying attention to, is how the Mets are doing.
Bluetooth disconnected.
Because obviously we want them to
Bluetooth
lose.
connected.
We need them to lose. They go drop this series against the Cubs this week, then that puts us in a favorable moment because all they got to do is lose 1 game. If we could take a series, all scenario basis, right? We look at this series that begins tonight, 6:30 for 41st pitch. Pirates will have Johan Oviedo. He's 2-0, 3.52 ERA. Brady Singer, I think you have the best 3 guys right now lined up. Brady Singer, Hunter Green, and Nick Lodolo. For the Pirates, you have Johan Oviedo, Paul Skeens, Braxton Ashcraft. I mean, you couldn't ask for it any better than this. The match card is set. And once we get past this series, we don't know where Milwaukee is going to be at because they're expected to have the first round bye. Could we take 2 out of 3 from Milwaukee? Absolutely. But I'm trying to hold off. All right, so let's go back to our first conversation that we've been talking about all month. What's goal number 1? Finishing the season off with a 500
Bluetooth
record.
disconnected.
And I'll tell you
connected.
this. The Reds are 1 game away from guaranteeing a 500 record baseball. A win tonight, a win tomorrow, whatever, can at least get you over that first step, and that's finishing above 500. The second step is that you have faith in your hands. You have your top 3 pitchers going at it this week. I think that, you just get in there, get the job done, go for a series sweep, finish off the 3 games at home perfectly, and then
Bluetooth
see how
disconnected.
Milwaukee goes.
Bluetooth connected.
But, this is American League, National League. It doesn't matter. If you're a baseball fan, especially if you need a little bit to root for because football is not working in your favor, then it's something to, let's talk about. But that is all the time we have for you today. A lot of stuff you want to watch. If you want to watch baseball tonight, we have Major League Baseball, a lot of American games. There's 5 American League series going on, 5 National League series going on. All have implications, playoffs from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock.
Bluetooth
We
disconnected.
have,
Bluetooth
and then, we get ready for Thursday Night Football. But let's not forget about it. We have what's going on our show. We have tonight's Reds Pirates game. You guys can watch on our channel. We have coming up a weekend series of baseball, NXT tomorrow night, Thursday Night Football, their international series on Sunday. So we have 3 games on Sunday. So a lot is cut out for us here coming up this week. We will be very busy. I appreciate your support. If you like this video or any of our videos, be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. We encourage you to jump into conversations. Leave us a comment down below.
Bluetooth disconnected.
Maybe we'll read them out on our channel
Bluetooth
one day.
connected.
And let us know what your takes on some sports topics are. We'll come back Thursday, give you week 4 picks, get you guys ready for the weekend as the final 3 games of baseball will be on our horizon. So that is all the time that we have for you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.